Today, Grandpa and I are making a cake that is known as war cake, depression cake, and poor man's cake. This was a recipe when butter, eggs, and milk were rationed. There's no eggs and no milk in this recipe. It has very few ingredients and it's a cheap cake to make. This is 3 cups of water, 2 cups of raisins, a half a cup of butter, and 1.5 cups of sugar. I'm putting the raisins and the water in a medium saucepan. Stir it a little. I'm going to put this on the stove and bring it to a boil. The raisins started boiling, so now I set the timer for 10 minutes. The raisins have been boiling for 10 minutes, so I'm taking the raisins off the heat and I'm going to add the other ingredients. I added half a cup of butter and now I'm adding the sugar. I just added the sugar and the butter. Now this will be stirred till the butter melts and the sugar is dissolved. Everything is stirred in now, so I'm going to place a cover on this and put it on the side and let it sit for a few hours. It's a few hours later and now we're going to finish the cake. I sifted 3 cups of flour. I'm adding a teaspoon of baking powder, and now I'm adding a teaspoon of baking soda. Okay. And a tablespoon of cinnamon. And Grandpa's going to stir it now. I'm now adding the wet ingredients that was sitting cooling for a few hours. We're going to stir it till it's well blended, but you don't want to over mix it. We're using 2 loaf pans, but you can also use a Bundt pan if you have one. Grandpa's going to pour the batter in the pans. The pans have to be greased and floured. We're going to bake these at 350 degrees for 1 hour. And you have to preheat the oven as always. Grandpa's putting the loaf pans in the oven now. And they'll be cooking for an hour at the 350 degree. It's been an hour now and the loaves are done. The cake is done. Grandpa's taking it out. They're done. I tested them, they're finished, they're done. We're going to let them now cool for 10 minutes and then we're going to put them on a wire rack. The 10 minutes is up, so now Grandpa's going to take them out of the loaf pan and onto the wire rack. Out of the loaf pan and onto the wire rack. Oh, it looks good. You broke it. Look, you saw what happened. So make sure when you turn it over, let it stay on the rack till it gets cool, and then you could turn it over. Grandpa was too in a rush, and it was too hot, and it cracked. This is my antique confectionery sugar sifter. A friend of mine had this in her kitchen and she never used it, so she gifted it to me, which I'm so happy. But it is quite old. They don't make this anymore. And now I'm going to put some confectionery sugar. And you can see how nice it works. See how nice it goes on the cake. And then it seals it up at the bottom. Now, doesn't that look nice? Now nobody will know that Grandpa cracked the cake. How's it taste, Grandpa?
Very light and delicious with the raisins in there. It's moist, and like I said, it's a light cake. It's not a heavy cake.
I'm going to taste it now to see how it tastes. Very good. I can't believe it was just a few ingredients and called a poor man's cake because it doesn't taste the way it sounds. It's so delicious. And this would be good with anything on top. If you wanted to add slices of apple, if you wanted to add a little whipped cream, if you want to have a little ice cream. It's a great cake. I hope everybody will try to make it. I decided to make another war cake. And since I like pumpkin spice and had a can of pumpkin in my pantry, I decided to replace the 1/2 cup of butter with 2/3 cup pumpkin and the teaspoon of cinnamon with a tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice. So I'm very anxious to see how these 2 loaves will turn out, and they're ready to go into the oven. Now the oven is preheated to 350. I'm going to put the cakes in the oven. And they're gonna bake for 1 hour. I just took the pumpkin cakes out of the oven. They were cooking for an hour and they're done now. So now they just have to completely cool. Now the cakes are done, and I added a little bit of confectionery sugar on the top. Now Grandpa's going to cut the cake, and we're going to try it. Can't wait to see how much of a pumpkin flavor it'll have. Looks good. How's it taste, Grandpa?
Tastes good, moist, delicious. Got a little pumpkin flavor to it.
You taste the pumpkin?
A little bit.
It tastes good, and I could taste the pumpkin flavor. No eggs, no butter, actually no dairy at all. It's very, very good.